Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. If you're watching live, I don't know what day it is if you're watching in the future, but if you are watching in the future, hello, future people. It's lovely to see you. In fact, I'd love to see you like live. So make sure, if you would be so kind, to hit the subscribe button. And while you're at it, ring that notification bell so you get notified when there's a live show and you can join us in the live chat, because that would make, me happy, but hopefully you as well. We're doing the thing. We are doing the thing. And by that I mean we're doing science and history and philosophy. And today we get to do all of those things at once, which is going to be a trip. But I do have some notes. But before I get to that, even there's a before going on here today because it's Monday and we're chaotic like that. I am joined by Kelly King. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm still
I mean,
alive.
within reason. Within reason.
I can how does it go? Despite the horrors, I continue to persist. Actually, today hasn't been that bad. The worst I could really say is that my pain level is down and I'm extra sleepy because I had to change one of my medicines a couple of days ago. And this medicine has always made me sleepy. It's a bedtime medicine because of the sleepiness. But this version of that medicine, I'm still sleepy, like hours and hours later. Hopefully that means it's working. I don't know. We'll see. But c'est la vie. Oh, goodness, goodness. I see a bunch of people dropping in on the side chat. Hello, folks. I see Weed Bro. I see John Fabiano. John asks,
Yeah.
copy and pasting an earlier statement to Weed Bro. How is your holiday? Get any good loot, my friend? I did. I actually did get some cool stuff. I don't have it handy because it's a whole thing. But I got some pretty handmade jewelry that I can actually wear, which is really fucking great, and I love it so much. And I got my father sent me some weird stuff, which I could go into a lot of tangents. My oldest dropped by. I got to see my oldest, and they crochet stuff, and they crocheted
Oh,
a
cool.
little doggy dude.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and he stands on his own because he's got like a platypus tail back there. So I mean, obviously not on my hand, well, but like on a normal surface, he could stand up, and that's pretty neat. And a couple of people sent me coats, which is like super thoughtful because now I have coats that fit, and it's something I haven't had in a very long time, and it like almost made me all fucking weepy. And one person sent me it's I don't know what you'd call it. It's like a plastic thing, but it's like
Yeah.
the tarot card of the Empress
Oh,
because I'm the Empress. And yeah, so I actually got some stuff this year, and I am not sure how I feel because like that's not a thing that normally happens. But I'm very much appreciate it, especially the coats because I like not freezing to death. How about you, Kelly? Did you have any good holiday stuff?
what did I do? Um, I had the atheist gr- get together. We always do. Connect with people that don't have families and stuff like that. We went and got sushi. It was a Chinese buffet, but they're known
Fuck
for
yeah.
their sushi. Then I spent time with my family. Though my kids, they're crazy. They was like, you like them atheist people, whether you like us. Because you spent Christmas with them first, then you came to us after.
Yeah. I
So it
mean,
was like,
kids
no,
kids always keep things interesting.
yeah.
I'm real quick closing the windows. That I have so many windows open because when we do Java and Jugs, which we do on Mondays preceding this show, none of the fucking forwards work today, alas. But like I have to have windows open for like so many of the channels to mod them. So I have so many windows open. It's wild. But we are better. Um but yeah, also, I see one of the people here, and I don't want to call out the people and like make people feel weird about stuff, but like one of the people also sent me a cute fucking scarf, and I was like,
Oh,
oh, oh my goodness, it's like so I have this this is a scarf as well as other things. It's one of those bendy, shapy things, and it's nice. It's really nice. One I can wear it as a scarf two different ways actually, but it's really nice. But like the only scarf I have or had before is my work scarf, which it works, but it was like for work, and I mean, I'd use it because I had to. I mean, you don't have to wear a scarf, but it definitely keeps your neck warmer. But now I'm gushing. Y'all know I'm prone to tangents. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Oh,
you
good.
wouldn't be you if you wasn't full of tangent.
It's true. People come
Who
here
would
for the
it?
tangents.
Who would it
People
be?
also come here for the great company, such as AJ, who joins us now.
Yay!
Hi,
Hello,
hi,
I made
hi.
AJ.
it.
Yay.
Because I was like, if you don't come for this episode,
I
I
will
know.
fail.
I was well, I heard you saying you plan to, but I didn't know like how who
Yeah,
knows?
because when you originally scheduled it, I couldn't do that day, and I was so sad. And then I saw that you rescheduled it, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna do whatever sacrifices I have to. Because
Child
it's hard.
sacrifices, crop sacrifices, even grain
Yeah, whatever.
sacrifices, you know.
Just no yeast. God
That's
doesn't
right.
like
God hates
yeast.
yeast. It's unclean. It's a whole
Yeah,
thing. We
exactly.
were doing adult Bible study last night, and so there's a whole thing, but that's a different series. That's another good reason to subscribe. We do more shows here that do various interesting stuff, like adult Bible study and transfactual, and in other news and other surprise shows. But this show is every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So do subscribe. I hope you join us, and also press the other buttons too. They're also very helpful. But today we have specific topics, which is why AJ made it a point to join us. So first thing first, today is the last day on this software. Starting tomorrow, every show on this channel will be on the other software. And I know that doesn't make much difference to most people, but it does change a few things, like, for example, the chat box. Now, neither software lets me move the chat box, but it will look a little different on the other software.
Who
For
you be
instance,
using now?
StreamYard.
Oh, you
I'm
rich now. You
no,
rich.
I am bumming on someone else's StreamYard, who I very, very much appreciate, because the reason I'm on this software is because I'm very poor. I literally have not gotten a regular paycheck in 6 months, because I've been out of work, because I was forced out of my job by transphobic assholes, and they did a lot of damage in the process, and I literally can't do the work I used to do anymore. But that's a whole other story for another time. The point is, I can't afford StreamYard. It's very expensive, but I need to
Yeah.
have the ability to have guests on. So I found literally the cheapest thing, and it's Restream, which is what we're on right now. But I can't actually afford this either, even though it's the cheapest thing. Because again, 6 months, no paychecks. Things are
Oh,
not good financially.
that's
They're
not good.
quite bad, actually, but we're not talking about that right now. So one of our fam was like, Ember, I can have multiple people on my StreamYard. You can just use my StreamYard. And I'm like, I appreciate that very much. And so that's what we're doing, is I'm bumming on someone
Hey,
else's account.
hey, that works. Whatever
Yeah.
works, works. Because you can do different studios on StreamYard, like that each one looks different
Mhm.
for each specific show. So you don't even have to mess up with their, whatever they have set up for their show.
That's true.
So
Theo points out OBS and Discord is free. It's true. However, in fact,
however,
I really like how custom my shows, when it is definitely just me, I can customize the fuck out of my shows. And in fact, the first versions of this show, the very first edition of this show, was through just my OBS. And in my opinion, it looked the best of any of these shows, but that's because I could customize it. The problem is bringing guests in on OBS. I know you can do it through Discord, but it's a pain in the ass. Like, you can do it simply and your show will look like shit. You'll have the guests, but it'll look like shit. Or you can try to make it look good, but it gets incredibly complicated.
OBS is hard. I gave up on OBS. I just couldn't
I mean,
figure
I'm
it out.
I'm using it right now for my existing overlay. Like, I could just use my actual webcam straight up, but if I did, then I couldn't do things like this. And you, ta-da, bitches.
And there was Jesus.
Yeah, like, I can make myself full screen through the software, and then through OBS, I can be like, as the new year approaches, it's like super important that we all take into consideration. My graphic isn't working.
Oh no.
It would have been a very funny joke, but it's not working. And that's another thing about OBS, is it's a little hit or miss sometimes. So, but I could, there we go. I can bring the cat's eyes on. I can do that much.
Oh,
Here,
gosh.
kitty,
It's
kitty,
funny.
kitty. Anyway, so This was actually supposed to just be a one-sentence announcement that today is the last day on this software. We're going to be on the other software moving forward. And some of the shows already have been, and you may not be aware. But yeah, so we're still doing Hot Topic. It's just on the other software now. So yay, celebrate with us and things. And speaking of celebrations, this time of year, some countries celebrate a book flood. It's a great holiday that I can definitely get behind. And in the spirit of scholarship, I'm pleased to say, friend of the community, Dr. Kip Davis, has finally released his new book, God's Propaganda, as an audiobook, which means you can now get it in any format you like. I'm not sponsored by either Dr. Kip or any particular audio platform. I'm just a proponent of supporting creators doing good work and spreading the word about that work when it makes sense to do so. I love traditional books, make no mistake. The weight, the feel, the smell of the paper, but audio is a lot more accessible for a lot of folks like me. So now that the audio edition is out, I thought I'd live up to my ideals and spread the word where it might do some good. So
I love it. When I had my cornea transplants, I couldn't look for like months, right? Because had to let them heal and everything. I didn't have my glasses, so I could not read anything, not even my phone most of the times. So I use the voice thingy a lot to tell it what to do, send message to blah blah blah. And one of the things I did more often was, hey, open up the book app, and so it will read the books to me. So that's audiobooks are very useful.
They are. Like, I get there's advantages either way. Like with a paper book, if you need to go back a few pages and reread something, it's super easy to do. But with an audiobook, you get that extra level of immersion because you've got the narrator who, if they're good at their job, is like a storyteller. And that's how humans evolved to convey information to each other, is through storytelling. So it's like
oral. Yeah.
It's just the best. I mean, who doesn't love oral, right, AJ?
Right. Who does? Kelly's like, what?
That made Kelly come back.
I might not like it. I can't say with a straight face.
I don't know.
Honestly, I've mixed opinions. I've had some very bad experiences, and that may be part of the reason that I would just as soon have garlic bread. But if I can lay back and have garlic bread and be entertained, then
properly by somebody with skill.
But you got to think about it. You can have bad entertainment, and you can have bad garlic bread. It can overcook the garlic bread. I mean, it could be so much stuff.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It is possible to fuck up garlic bread, and that's sacrilegious. That's a damn shame. But I digress. Consciousness. Today we're doing consciousness, and there are 3 tiers to this topic: the development of consciousness itself, the development of our understanding about consciousness, and the history of how we went about learning both of those things. These multiple levels are all tangled together because the nature of our species' adaptive strategy, which directly impacts our evolutionary history, is tied to our cognitive abilities, which can't help but be changed by changes in the way we understand and utilize those cognitive functions. Fortunately, I found a pretty decent starting point for our investigation that addresses most of these things all together. But before we get our brains wet, let's make sure we're hydrated. And this is where I run my commercial, because I actually planned it out, and it's so much funnier because I'm explaining it now. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. Yeah, we can't have random water around these parts. Fuck no.
Secular
I mean,
feminist said, there we go.
After Ember
That's why you got to get your filters
already.
in.
Hell yeah. I mean,
I
that's
mean-
more the kind of segue that I was hoping for to get the little double entendres thing go. I was thinking of doing it earlier when we started talking about moisture, but I had
we're all
this
water
planned
sluts.
in, so I figured we'll just go with it. Because
You
I don't
can-
We're such
actually
water sluts.
yeah,
It's true.
you can always go with if you don't want to be a dirty slut for water.
I know. Oh shit.
No, if you want to be,
we hit
you want to be
actually recording.
protected. Why you're being a dirty slut for water? You gotta be
That's
protected.
right. If you are a dirty slut for water, be a responsible hydro hoe and use protection.
I know, love it.
Epic water
Hey,
filters.
if you're gonna be a hoe, you might as well be a water hoe. I mean, just saying.
Code EMBER15.
Moist. Help my hillbilly. Moist.
Yes. This is how we drive the audience away.
Or bring them
None
to
of our
us.
redirect work
Flood it.
today.
We're,
So,
we're actually flooding them. We're actually flooding them in.
something. I don't know. It's just it's so wild. So as you know, I do my copy of Java and Jugs is in vertical format because YouTube doesn't like it when you do two streams in the same format back to back. By doing one in vertical and the other horizontal, it sees them as two separate medias, and so it won't penalize me in the algorithm for doing one show and then immediately the next. But the downside is because the stream forwarding thing didn't actually work today, we went from having 500 plus viewers to 16 because they didn't carry over. And this is why why everybody talks about subscribing. Hit the damn subscribe button, because if you watch something regularly but you're not subscribed, you may get the next show in your feed, but you may not. Now, I realize subscribing also doesn't guarantee it, which is why there's the notification bell. I mean, it makes a difference. And if you want to catch like high quality content, which is what we aspire to and sometimes manage to achieve here by diving into things like the fucking history of consciousness, then it's really important that you hit the damn buttons.
I don't know.
It's
Sometimes
free roam.
nothing
Good.
works, and I gotta just get to that channel and get the information. I know every day, even if I don't be on here, I know Hot Topics is coming on right after damn. So I automatically just have to sometimes type in your name and get your stuff.
Yeah, just do it.
But I love you that much though. We go through all the effort.
I know it varies from person. I'm trying to get the size right for the freaking window, but I can't see if it's matching up because they're in separate windows, and so I'm just kind of winging it. That's probably close enough. All right, let's bigify. Let's dive in. Let's do the thing, because we only have a certain amount of time. Welcome to the Stanford Encyclopedia Sanford, not Stanford. They're two separate things. Sanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Now, this is weirdly, it has the least to do with philosophy of any of the. It's like it's about neurology, it's about culture, it's about history. There's a little bit of philosophy, but it's in there, and it's fun. And speaking of what else is in there, Secular Feelinist sends a super chat for $5. Thank you, SF. That is the most generous super chat I've gotten so far this week. SF says, two chemists walk into a bar. One says, I'll have an H2O. The other says, I'll have an H2O too. The second chemist died. It's true. Peroxide will ruin your day if you don't pay
Yes.
careful attention. History of the issue. Questions about the nature of conscious awareness have likely been asked for as long as there have been humans. And this is relevant to our secular channels as well, because this is sort of where religion comes from. Partly. I'll explain. Neolithic burial practices appear to express spiritual beliefs and provide early evidence for at least minimally reflective thought about the nature of human consciousness. Couple of citations: Pearson, Clark, and Real Salvatore. Pre-literate cultures have similarly been found invariably to embrace some form of spiritual or at least animist view that indicates a degree of reflection about the nature of conscious awareness. Now, they of course did not call it consciousness. They didn't have like the modern terminology, but they did have the notion that humans appear to be aware in a way that other species aren't necessarily. And more importantly, what happens to that awareness when we die? So this is where we get the start of some forms of spiritualism. Like, it doesn't take thoughts on mortality or thoughts on consciousness to arrive at beliefs in supernatural things and superstitions. But what it can do is make you go, well, my ancestors are watching over me and judging me, so I have to behave honorably, but also trying to guide me, and they want good things for me. And maybe if I make offerings to the ancestors, they will bless me and my crops. And like, you start to build on things that we would now consider to be religions. And in fact, there are some versions of the older Hebrew texts that you could look at. You could substitute out the word God for the community or the spirits of the ancestors as a collective entity. If you defined God as the council of ancestor spirits, it would actually make more sense than thinking about it as like a monotheistic power, you know? It's fascinating how that works. And we can see clear links in the evolution of how this shit develops. Nonetheless, some have argued that consciousness as we know it today is a relatively recent historical development that arose sometime after the Homeric era, according to Janes. I'll just say citation when there's a citation. According to this view, earlier humans, including those who fought the Trojan War, did not experience themselves as unified internal subjects of their thoughts and actions, at least not in the ways we do today. Others have claimed that even during the classical period, there was no word of ancient Greek that corresponds to consciousness. Citations. And that's technically true, but again, that's a matter of not just language and word correspondence, translation, transliteration, but concepts. If you think about thinking in a different way, you're going to have a different language structure. And because these are all emergent properties that only have meaning in reference to the system, the model of thinking you're thinking about, you're thinking with, then you're going to end up with divergent emergent properties and a completely different structure of how you talk about the different properties that have emerged. In short, it's complicated. Though the ancients had much to say about mental matters, it is less clear whether they had any specific concepts or concerns for what we now think of as consciousness. Now, there's pluses and minuses there, because we know that Plato, as well as several of his students, talked about what we would consider consciousness quite a lot. What is the nature of awareness? Why is man able to ask why about things? Why do other creatures not seem to do that? You know, like these are all questions that have something to do with what we would consider to be consciousness. So we know they did, even if they called it by different things, you know?
Yeah, they had already thought about the concept of it, the idea of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of ideas.
In fact, they couldn't have used the same words, because these are, like the next section says, the words conscious and conscience are used quite differently today. It's likely that the Reformation emphasis on the latter as an inner source of truth played some role in the inward turn so characteristic of the modern reflective view of self. There's something to that. These are, I guess, kind of retronyms. They're Latin They're pseudo-Latin. They're Latin words made up after Latin was already a dead language. And, conscience from scientia, to know, right? So it's inner knowing, and conscious is inner awareness. So you can know something inwardly, that's moral judgments, like this is right or wrong kind of thing. And then there's inner awareness, which is a very different thing. You can know right or wrong and not be self-aware, or you could be self-aware and have no idea about right or wrong. They're obviously different categories, but they were used similarly when we first started thinking about this in this way in the Reformation. And again, how we think about it has that meta effect of changing how we think about it, because it's how we're thinking. But according to this hypothesis, the Hamlet who walked the stage in 1600 already saw his world and self with profoundly modern eyes. And by that, we mean the modern interpretation of a united consciousness, one awareness that is aware internally as well as externally. We're not just processing stimuli and reacting. We're thinking about things and we're reflecting. What do I want? How can I do something different to achieve a goal? Or what mistake did I make? Or what can I do better? Or all these various self-reflective things.
Yeah, but that's how conscience came to connect to consciousness. I would think. That's just a hypothesis here. I'm not professional, but if you were thinking about, oh, I did something wrong, and this is weighing heavily on my conscience, and then you start to think, well, what does that mean? Like what does it mean to have a conscience that is telling me that this is wrong? And then you start becoming more aware of that conscious and call it consciousness, I suppose.
I mean, I could kind of see there being a relationship, but I don't know that we necessarily had to develop one out of the other. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how people, and again, as we develop an understanding, it's going to start more juvenile and it will gradually grow and mature as we add on more knowledge and more ideas and more sophistication to our understanding. So I could see like people saying, well, people understand right and wrong. That means they have to have some kind of inward looking ability, some kind of self-awareness as well. And that started to develop into a distinct thing. Or it could go the other way and say you're aware of yourself, from empathy, like when someone does something wrong to you, when something is unfair or it hurts, and you can use empathy to understand it's unfair and it hurts other people too. And so from that, you can identify right and wrong through your own self-awareness.
Yeah.
So it could have gone either way.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense too.
Possibly. I mean, we're just hypothesizing here, but still. Let's see.
We're just kind of sharing ideas.
Exactly. We're trying to learn together here. So by the beginning of the early modern era, we're skipping right to the 17th century, consciousness had come full center in thinking about the mind. Because by now, we've disambiguated minds from other things, whether it's the heart does your thinking or the brain does your thinking or whatever. Like the organs that make thinking possible are not the same as the collection of thoughts themselves. And that's the weird thing. Like we can understand the data input through the senses and the reflex processes, the bits of neuroanatomy that keep our hearts beating and control the data input from our senses and whatnot. But why do we have this sense of being a single organism? That doesn't necessarily follow. That doesn't seem to be necessary. In fact, we don't have to have self-awareness in the way we think of it in order to have followed exactly the same evolutionary trajectory. So why do we have that? I mean, we could speculate, we could come up with some ideas, but they'd just be hypotheses at this point.
Right, yeah.
So, indeed, the text says, from the mid-17th through the late 19th century, consciousness was widely regarded as essential or definitive of the mental. You're not really having a mental if you don't have a consciousness. René Descartes defined the very notion of thought in terms of reflexive consciousness or self-awareness. Reflexive as in looking inward, awareness internally, rather than reflexive as in reactionary, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
In the Principles of Philosophy, he wrote, by the word thought, I understand that all of which we are conscious as operating in us. And that's a kind of a profound idea, because while we're aware of the fact that our thoughts appear to happen within our head, he's thinking about thinking, which is a wild trick that human brains can do. And he's like, so what I think thinking is, when I think about it, is that it's the subject of all of the things of our consciousness, our inward awareness that is operating internally. So it's a model of thought. He thought about thinking about thinking about thinking about thinking.
Thinking inception.
For real. Now, it should be noted that Rene Descartes, also famous for his mathematics, right? Cartesian curves, for example. He got into some really advanced geometry. And it shows, because his ability to do this kind of mathematical geometric warping of his metacognition, holy shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Math, geometry, algebra don't quite fit in this brain.
This is why I'm constantly talking about polymath, right? Not everybody has to be an expert in everything, and some of our brains don't process some things as well as other people. That's why we benefit so much from diversity, because different brains process things different ways. AJ, your brain will come up with stuff that mine would never think of, and vice versa. But we should try to cram in as much education as we can, because the more stuff we understand to the greatest extent possible, the more we'll be able to synthesize deeper understandings. We'll get new information from one field and we'll combine it. Like, who would think that consciousness and geometry would overlap like that? And yet here's Descartes making breakthroughs in metacognition because he's also a geometry bro, you know?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
It's fucking
I
wild.
agree
So
with
like
that.
any field, being educated in multiple fields, it's like being educated in multiple languages. You can communicate more and you can express ideas way more clearly because you understand the underlying concepts in a way that people who only have one field or only one language can never get their heads around, you know?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
It's fucking nifty. Okay, toward the end of the 17th century, we're still in the history of how we got there, synthesis sort of thing. Toward the end of the 17th century, John Locke offered a similar, if slightly more qualified, claim in an essay on human understanding. He said, I do not say there is no soul in man because he is not sensible of it in his sleep. But I do say that he cannot think at any time, waking or sleeping, without being sensible of it. Our being sensible of it is not necessary to anything but our thoughts. And to them it is, and to them it always will be necessary. Now, what he's saying here is sensible, as in being conscious, being awake, being aware, being able to have thoughts running, right? That's what being sensible means in this context.
Gotcha.
So you can exist without thinking. You can even live without thinking. But the one thing you cannot do without thinking is thinking, which is kind of circular, but people
Ironic.
didn't think of it that way, you know?
On what you were just talking about, math, I just had a random thought, but like, just because I don't understand math doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And we can say the same about, hey, we don't understand this concept of why, I don't know, why we have experiences that seem supernatural, like we're seeing ghosts or demons and whatever. It doesn't mean that they're real. It just means that you don't understand it. So don't automatically fill the gaps with randomness.
Yeah,
Just
for
admit
sure.
it. Just admit it. Don't, you don't get it. Like me.
Yeah, I don't know is always a far better answer than making up some random bullshit and then killing people who don't accept your random bullshit.
Yeah,
Believe
exactly.
me or I'll murder you. It's almost like our cultist friends who were, trying to have fun with us yesterday, whose entire philosophy is I will slur and insult at you until you do as I say, and that's how I demonstrate the truth of what I'm saying. It's fucking
Yes,
wild.
like I am telling the truth, therefore you have to hide.
It's fucking nuts.
Or are they trying to hide the truth?
It's I don't know. I mean, as a skeptic, when a person's first move is to go directly to violence and intimidation tactics, that tells me that they know what they're saying is not true because they don't
Oh
even
yeah,
try to present a rational case for it,
not even trying. Yeah.
Say la vie. On the pluser side, the more real side, I suppose. Sinister Porpoise sends us a super chat for 256. Thank you, Sinister, and says, "But imaginary numbers aren't real."
Like Arabic numbers, not real. They don't
I mean,
exist.
from a certain perspective, all numbers are imaginary insofar as like the concepts were dreamed up by humans and we're just all agreeing to the same general format.
Yeah, it's a concept. I mean, you can like see them written down, right? So like you can see them, but you can't experience them. I don't know. I might
Well,
be
you
too
can
philosophical there.
experience the thing that they're representative of. For example, I have one booby pen. Like the number one is represented in the property of the fact that there's only one of them, which honestly is
That's
a
a good
damn
point.
shame. But, the fact that I have two attached and then a third one that I can waggle around, in a way, that's kind of a blessing. But all of that only makes sense because we've all agreed on a convention of numbers,
Very
like
true.
if we went with, say, a binary based system, right, then we would have no boobies and then boop booby, but then we have more than one booby, so it would be like other booby and then activate booby, and then we'd add the third booby, and it is quite. I realize my cat's eyes they're an overlay on my camera, so it's fine, but anyway, yeah, so the number system we use determines it helps shape how we experience the thing we're referring to using that numerical concept, which in a way relates to how thinking about thinking shapes how we experience our thoughts and the reality that we experience through the filter of those thoughts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was going in tangents. Numbers is today, which is also a book Bible, a book of the Bible. I can word it sometimes.
Sinister's doing that thing where she takes if truth plus life equals God, then truth equals life minus God. And there's other versions like God equals life minus truth. Like math doesn't lie.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Like these are mathematical laws that are older than fucking Christianity,
Why, that looks like some good algebra processing right there.
Yeah, it's fun shit. All right, continuing on. Locke, everyone's favorite. Locke. He explicitly forswore making any hypothesis about the substantial basis of consciousness and its relation to matter, but he clearly regarded it as essential to thought as well as to personal identity. Now, remember, we're talking about consciousness, which is the sense of being, the personal identity, which appears to exist entirely on the basis of thought. Like without thought, you don't have that sense of existing. You don't have that personal identity. It's just data in, reflexive reaction, data out, input, reaction, output sort of thing.
Yeah, that's why my good buddy consciousness expert Richard Gilliver, he's always talking about how we need to have animal biologists included in the consciousness conversation, because we need to try to figure out whether animals have that ability to do what you were just describing, or whether they just like sort of exist without awareness of themselves. Although we can argue that they are aware of others, and so in a way it makes you assume that they have to be aware of themselves, but we can't know for sure yet.
Well, it's so difficult to decipher what's instinct, what's hardwired
Right.
programming, skills and knowledges that are pre-built into their neurological structure versus what is thought, right?
Yeah, or
'Cause,
like making conscious choices.
yeah, like building a nest, for example. Now, this actually varies from bird species to bird species. There's some birds that if you separate them from their parents before they can be taught things like how to fly, how to build a nest, they will just never do it. They'll be grounded their entire life. They'll have an instinct to nest, but they'll never build a proper nest. They'll suck at it. So there's an instinct, but they don't do it because they have to be taught. And that shows there has to be some kind of cognition because learning
Yeah.
requires thought.
Cats do the same thing. I don't know if you've ever raised a kitten that was an orphan, right? I had a friend give me a kitten when she was like, I don't know, 4 weeks old or something, because the mom got run over by a car, and so she
Oof.
was left with the kittens, and she couldn't keep them out. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna give you one, and I'm gonna give you somebody else one, and I'll keep two. And so she gave me one, and she was pretty useless as a cat, except for like the basic instincts. But like she didn't learn how to properly use the box, and wash herself and all of that stuff until she was more exposed to my adult cats, and then she could learn from them, even though they weren't her parents. Like they have to learn that how to be a cat, and she's still pretty feral. Like she's rude as fuck. She's mean.
It's wild. And the more advanced, the more reliant upon that dare I say cultural element of learning, the more social your species, the longer it takes to go through a childhood period where you have to learn all this stuff because it's stuff that doesn't come prepackaged as instinct. It's in a way, it's sort of genetic information in that it's a heritable characteristic, but it's not biological, it's social. And so shit gets more complicated and more complicated because evolution doesn't care how you're passing on the heritable information. It just cares that it's there. That's how it naturally selects. And so we end up with human cultures that do all kinds of interesting things. But back to the birds, there are some birds who can be raised separate from their parents, and they do know how to build a nest. Or beavers are another good one. If you separate them from their parents, it depends on the subspecies of beaver. Some of them not only have an instinctive urge to build a dam, but have the fucking architectural knowledge to make a dam that works. Now, it's not knowledge. They don't understand the physics or the hydrodynamics, but it still operates within the hydrodynamics, much like your heartbeat, right?
Mhm.
It's a very specific sequence of muscle contraction caused by a very specific sequence of electrochemical signals. You don't understand any of how that works, and you don't have to. It just works. And so you don't ever have to question it or think about it. A beaver dam is a little more complicated, but it's the same thing. So what is instinct and what is thought? And once you have thought, does it become inevitable that you gain the ability to learn? And once you can learn, that becomes part of your adaptive strategy, which eventually becomes part of your species evolutionary strategy, which eventually, inevitably, leads to the kind of self-awareness we call consciousness. Like, are humans actually the best at it, or are we just the most aware of the way we do it because we're doing it? You know?
Right, right.
one of my favorite books is called A Gift of Time. And in it, the main character meets an alien who they have extremely advanced technology, but her species originally, before she uploaded, because that's what aliens do, of course, is they upload their
Yeah, I
consciousness
was.
into spaceships. She was something kind of like a whale, giant squid, sea monster type being. And her species never really developed technology because they didn't have to. They lived in the ocean where things are pretty much the same. They didn't have to build artificial caves with environmental controls in order to not die between crop harvests. You know, they didn't have to do that. So they didn't need technology. They didn't need to adapt in the same way. But they did spend a lot of time coming up with mathematics. And that's why the Galactic Council of Aliens invited some of them to join, because they had the best math of any species in the galaxy at the time. That was their cognition. That was their technology, if you will, is they built like the best math. And that's sort of a thing that is, it's
Um,
cognitively related. Like math exists whether you're aware of it or not, but in order to use it to do stuff, not only does it require learning, which requires consciousness, but it requires the ability to discipline your consciousness and make it do tricks, you know?
yeah. Where can I find this math aliens? Can I hire one?
Well, if only it's a science fiction, and it's one of my favorite stories, because so the alien spaceship breaks down, and the main character, he's just about at the end of his life. He's in his late 70s or early 80s, something like that. He's been divorced for years. His kids are all grown up, and only one son still talks to him. And he's like, I'm done. I'm in pain, and no one loves me, and I'm just out. And he's been carrying like a lifetime of regret about losing his little brother when he was a child.
Okay.
Because it was one of those things where he was supposed to be watching out for his little brother, and a kidnapper got him, and they found his
Yeah,
body
he
later.
feels, yeah, the guilt.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So this alien crash lands in front of his house and is like, "Hey, you are a PhD level engineer. I need your help fixing my spaceship because I broke this fucking rod that connects the time dilator to the space doohickey, and I'm a piece of software. I can't do physical things, you know? So I need your help." And he's like, "But why me?" And she's like, "Because you're about to unalive yourself. So you're the least likely to tell people that aliens dropped by your front yard."
That's a good point, I guess.
Yeah. So he helps her out, and you know, he gives her like a workaround that he can't completely fix her connector doohickey because it's made of pure titanium, and humans can't actually produce pure titanium. We can get really, really close, but not quite there, you know? So it's not quite a perfect fit, but it makes the machine work again. And so she's like, galactic rules require that I compensate you for your help. This is done in order to keep us from abusing the other races that haven't been invited to join the Galactic Council yet. Like whenever you do a favor for us, we have to pay you whether you want it or not. So how can I make your life substantially better, given that you've only got a day or two more to live or whatever? And also his son that still talks to him helped in the project of fixing the thing, because it voids the whole thing about you're about to die so you won't tell anyone, but he's like, "You can trust my son, it's fine." So the son, the alien she's like, I don't know what I want. And so the alien is like, I can give you like super enhanced math skills, and as an engineer yourself, that'll be like really, really useful. And he's like, "Oh, cool." So boom, math skills just downloaded right into his brain.
Nice.
And of course, the main character is like, "Well, I see you've got time travel technology. I don't want to like have you change the past. I just want you to like upload me. Now, he has to be uploaded for other reasons, but he's like, what if you download me into my past self with the knowledge of what happens to my brother so I can prevent it? Now, of course, that could make potential paradoxes, but never mind. But that's so the story can happen. That's the rest of the book is he grows up as himself over again, but with his modern day knowledge.
Huh. Love that. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I know, it's such a good book. And he's got like this witchy aunt. Like she's so old. She was like still alive when Juneteenth happened, or she was young, but she was around, right? Like she's like stupid old, because the story, it takes place in the past, right? When this 80-year-old man was a little kid. And so we're talking like 1950s ish, which means somebody being alive during the Civil War is really old, but not impossible, you know?
Right.
So she's like super witchy, and she's like, "You're a different person than the last time I saw you, Cager." He's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "You got the same body, but that mind behind those eyes is a much older being. Don't you try to fool me. I'm still older now than you are." So it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Yeah, SF figures that if he saved his brother, he wouldn't have been so depressed, and so the alien wouldn't have picked him, which results in a paradox. It depends on your model of time. Under this causal reality, he wouldn't have done the thing if not for the thing. So him doing what he did as his future self in his past body is dependent on the thing originally happening in the way it was originally done. And spoiler alert, he doesn't save his brother that time through either, because it turns out as a little kid, the kidnapping, not actually his fault. He'd been carrying survivor's guilt his entire life. It wasn't his fault because he was a little kid, you know? It's kind of an important literary point, and I'm so glad it's in there, because so many of us are running around, maybe not with that level of survivor's guilt.
Yeah, but
you know,
still, some, yeah.
But a lot of guilt like that, where it's like, oh, if only I'd done this or I'd done that. Besties, hear me and listen well. The shit that has been done to you is not your fault. I'm still processing a lot of that kind of shit myself. And I've said before, everyone can benefit from therapy.
Yeah.
Our thoughts are the most powerful tool we have, but they're so dangerous if we don't handle them with care.
I know. I just realized that I did that thing yesterday. What you were just talking about, like not feeling guilty for something that was done to me, but feeling guilty for something that was done to somebody else that I could have prevented. And I was like, I wish I blah blah blah. Oh, if only I had this and that. And I'm like, okay, maybe not. Maybe it just happened because people are shitty.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's this thing of like, if I had done something differently, then maybe the bad thing wouldn't have happened. Maybe it would have had some impact, but the actual cause of the bad thing, you didn't do that, and you weren't prepared for it to happen. So don't beat yourself up over not preventing it. You didn't cause it. The person who did the bad thing, whatever it may be, from abusing a little child to murdering another little child, whatever the case may be, you didn't cause that to happen. It's not because of you. The people who did those things worked hard to make those things happen, and it would be wrong to take the blame they earned from them for yourself. It would be positively immoral. It would be unethical. The only right thing to do is to let these people who worked so hard to earn that blame keep the blame they earned. And now we're going to take a quick break where we talk about what happens when people don't do that.
I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum, and specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I am a depraved wretch. I am a great sinner. I'm a worm, completely undeserving of any love or any grace. I'm nothing. I'm nothing.
You're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
You can't spell Pride Month without demon. PRIDEMONTH.
If we don't know who the women are, because there are just people, then we won't be able to pull the women up to equality with men.
We have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. And that's for two reasons. One of them is that every one of those people is a person who's been damaged. But the second one is every one of those people is basically, a huge problem to a sane world.
Transgenderism must be eradicated.
The LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people.
I will use whatever gives me victory. I don't care about the truth, and I don't care about the law. I care about one thing, the control.
But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president. Then what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so that was a good thing.
I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
We've been hoodwinked. We've been taken in by an ideology crafted by creeps and then pushed on children.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
If they die, they die.
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
Being a Christian doesn't exclude us from experiencing spiritual dryness.
We're bad people. All of us are bad people.
Now, I think Alan Parr has the key piece of wisdom for our purposes today in that one. Oh shit, the sun came out.
Oh,
y'all can see that the void is actually a curtain. It's not really an endless nothing behind me.
Yeah. You did suddenly get brighter.
I know, the secret is out. I mean, it literally never happens, and it's happened twice this month. I don't know. The sun is shining upon me, folks. Whatever. Alan Parr's whole thing is don't let people pressure you into thinking. And it looks like a dishonest cut, but that's where he cut the video. That's his edit.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was wondering if that was your edit or if that's what it was. Good to know. Good to know.
So many of the clips, so many of them are so long because I want it to be clear. I'm not just clipping people out in ways that make them sound bad. I want them to have the full context. But Alan cut the clip there, or his editor did, I suppose. Don't let people pressure you into thinking. Cut. End of clip. Okay.
Things are happening.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole message is be afraid, be distracted, focus on this stuff. Do not think, because when you can think, you become dangerous to the people who want to control you. I know.
Exactly.
What a reach.
And there was the other one that said, I don't care about anything, just to control. And there you go. I don't know who that was that said it.
It's Pastor Mark. I forget his fucking last name, but he's not a mega church pastor, but he has a pretty big fucking church, and he does a broadcast thing. I mean, obviously, that's where that clip is from, is one of his broadcasts, and it was actually Robin Webster. We were reviewing that video. I forget if it was on this show or another show or whatever, but we were looking at the video, that clip with Pastor Mark, what's his name, came from. And Robin was like, Ember, you have to put that clip in the montage because holy shit, he's telling on himself. He's telling on the whole fucking movement. They don't care
All of
about
it.
truth. They don't care about the law. They only care about control. And he just says it.
Interestingly enough, I did notice an atheist in the clip who stands by the same standards where truth doesn't matter. It's just whatever narrative they want to sell.
Mark Driscoll. Yes,
For control.
that's
For
his name.
control.
That's
Oh,
it.
Mark
But
Driscoll.
yeah,
Okay,
not
gotcha.
everybody in there is a Christian person. I mean, I'm sure you noticed the current president of the United States, who, while a lot of people like to pretend he's a Christian, he's very much not, you know?
No, not at all.
C'est la vie. Oh, goodness. My unfinished sock has to explain that they are, in fact, a sock. I mean, in fairness, as I often say, jokes are funnier when you explain them. It's true. All right, let's continue on. We don't have terribly much time, and we have a lot of honestly, folks, we're not going to get through all of this. I'm hoping to just lay the foundation for a better understanding of where the scholarship is on consciousness, so that we can build on this later with other stuff, because that's my favorite thing to do here, is to lay some building blocks and then see what we can make out of them as we go along. We did that with Advent this year, and it was so much fun, and we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep learning shit, and we're going to keep fucking building. Maybe that'll be my word for the year. Building. Maybe. I don't know. I'm very non-committal. I'm indecisive when it comes to, you have to pick a word for the whole year.
Sorry about that.
It's fine.
Putting people on the spot.
All right. So Locke forswore making a specific hypothesis, but he regarded consciousness as essential to thought as well as personal identity. And that's where we left off. Where is the line? Where do we say, okay, this animal is clearly conscious, but does it have a sense of identity? You know, like, where is that line? I don't know that there is such a line. It just becomes more refined. Like, it's like most things in nature, there isn't actually a binary, nor are humans at the far end of it. Humans are probably somewhere in the middle zone, and you can actually get much more refined, and we will if we get the chance to continue to evolve. This mistake of thinking humans are the very best ever and the pinnacle of all possibility is very fucking wrong. We're no more the best that can possibly be than our ape ancestors were, or their lizard ancestors before them. Like, evolution always has room to grow, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, goodness. My unfinished sock says, don't ruin jokes by explaining them. Like and share the stream instead. And it's good advice.
It is. I try, but sometimes you
Like,
have
truly, folks, it makes a huge difference. Please click the buttons. It helps. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe, because we'd love to see you in future shows. But also, please use the share. It's the most powerful free button on YouTube. It's the only way these videos get in front of other people. And we're trying so hard to discuss intellectual stuff, but we need people to help to make that happen, you know?
Because this is not reaching the people it needs to reach.
What now?
Oh, I say that it isn't reaching the people that need this type of content the most. Because like all the people in our chat, we love them, right? But like they're already where we are. The majority of them anyway. It's like, I hope that they still enjoy it, but I would like people that don't understand this shit to understand this shit.
Yeah, like, the people who are here are people who want to learn, and you know, like myself, we're covering shit I don't know because I want to learn more about it, you know, and I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for the people who are here who want to do that. But the people who want to learn are the people who need to learn the least urgently.
Right. Good point.
It's a bit of a catch-22, I suppose.
I know.
Locke's contemporary, G.W. Leibniz, drawing possible inspiration from his mathematical work. It's the fucking math again, AJ.
Oh no.
His mathematical work on differentiation and integration offered a theory of mind in the Discourse on Metaphysics, 1686, that allowed for infinitely many degrees of consciousness, and perhaps even for some thoughts that were unconscious, the so-called petit perception, tiny awareness. You know, sort of like the tiny death, but that's for a different website. Leibniz was the first. It's an orgasm joke for anybody who isn't familiar with French. I do very highbrow humor here. It's fine. Leibniz was the first to distinguish explicitly between perception and apperception, which is to say, roughly between awareness and self-awareness. Like, you can be aware of your hand touching the table because you're aware of the table and that you're feeling the feeling of it, but that's different from being aware that it's your hand that's touching the table.
Yeah.
The identity aspect is a big component.
Right.
In the monadology, someone don't tell Forrest. In the monadology, he also offers his famous analogy of the mill to express his belief that consciousness could not arise from mere matter. And this is where the the presuppositionalists get their nonsense, but never mind. He asked his readers to imagine someone walking through an expanded brain as one would walk through a mill and observing all its mechanical operations, which for Leibniz exhausted its physical nature. Nowhere, he asserts, would such an observer see any conscious thoughts. And even though the model that he was talking about at the time, this is a thing that we do with neuroscience and psychology generally, is we analogize to the technology of the time. We've talked about this before, how Freudian terms are reliant on steam engines because they were an advanced technology of the time. You know, there's grinding, there's venting, there's pressure buildup, there's all of these things that are just steam engine terminology, just ported right over. So Leibniz is looking at a factory full of gears and machinery and so forth, and he's saying, well, the brain is operating kind of that way. I mean, it's not, but it's kind of is. We could look at it more accurately with a more updated model. A lot of people today refer to the brain in terms of computers, because they do calculate, they do compute, they do crunch data, they do a lot of computer-like things. So it is a better analogy, but it's still an awful fucking analogy because it's a biological system running on chemicals. But despite that, Leibniz is technically correct. There is no part of the brain where you will find physical things that you could call thoughts. There is no part of the brain where you can find a physical consciousness. There are parts that have a whole hell of a lot more to do with cognitive function than others, but there is no consciousness lobe. There is no thinking tissue. It's diffuse. It's a function of the whole brain.
Well, it's kind of all over the place, and without certain parts, maybe you wouldn't be able to have that. Especially like the parts that do, reasoning and that type of thinking. I don't know.
There's stroke people, stroke victims who have very specific gaps in their ability to think or their awareness or their function. And it's not just like physical function, like, you have a stroke in your visual cortex and you lose your ability to process visual information until your brain retrains itself, if it ever does. But like, that's the physical function, but like the cognition itself. And so much of this is tied to conceptualization. For example, there's a couple different kinds of aphasia, and I'm constantly, ironically, getting which one is which mixed up. There's Broca's aphasia, which I believe is the one where you're aware that you've lost the ability to speak, and so you just don't try. And then there's fluent aphasia, which is where you're actually not fluent. You've lost the ability to speak a language, but you don't seem to be aware of that fact. And so you just glossolalia at people and you don't understand why they're not understanding you, because your brain
Right.
is it's still processing language at the level of consciousness. It's saying, tell AJ I want an ice cream. But when it gets to the language center where it
Yeah.
takes that thought and encodes it into the physical motions required for words, that part of the brain just goes, eh, and just
Never mind.
junk comes out, you know?
Yeah.
So you end up with and AJ's like, the fuck did you just say? And I'm like, what is not clear about what I'm saying? But it comes out as you know?
Right, and your brain thinks that it is saying the things that it was telling you to say.
So yeah, cognition, function, all these things they interrelate, and it's fascinating how they interrelate, because sometimes we're aware that we have a broken function and other times we're not. Like, you can actually be spitting glossolalia and have no fucking idea that people can't understand you, because your self-check, your hearing of your own voice, it's running through the same busted language section, which is just going, yep, that's exactly what you told me to say.
Yeah. Oh, there was actually this very recent publication in the Schizophrenia Journal. Please go fact check it, because I might be communicating it improperly. But from what I remember, they were saying that they did imaging that indicated that people who hear voices who have schizophrenia seem to have a part of their brain that in the average person, when you're thinking in voice, right, inside your head, your brain turns down that part, the auditory part, so that you perceive it as coming from inside your head, and you're like, oh, okay, that's my own thought, even if it comes in different voices, right? Like, even if you're thinking about your mom or something and you hear her voice. Now, in people with schizophrenia who hear voices, apparently that part of the brain, the imaging showed that that part of the brain was not being turned down. And so people are perceiving that as an outside auditory experience. And that's potentially why they think they're hearing voices, but it's actually their own voice speaking. Does that make sense? I hope I explained that correctly.
It does, but because of the interesting combination of my own experiences and cognitive abnormalities and so forth, I see it from a slightly different perspective. For a long time, people tried to get me to use marijuana because they're like, Ember, your brain doesn't ever actually turn off, and we can see it's fucking with your rest. So try smoking this magic weed that makes your brain stop doing that so you can rest, maybe. And so I tried it, and it doesn't affect me the way it seems to affect everybody else. Instead, I just get an echo in my head. And I know
Oh, wow.
why. I was able, because it didn't affect me like other people. I just got an echo in my head. I was able to try to observe, as an affected person, but also an observer of the thing, and like note what was happening and what seemed to be the case. And while I don't have a brain scanning machine to confirm similar results in other people, based on their speech patterns and the way they seem to be thinking under the influence, it seems to be a similar thing is what happens in other people's brains. TLDR, your thoughts are an illusion. They're an optical illusion caused by using your brainwaves as a timing belt, right? Like, your brainwaves go bloop, 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 for example. Like, there's 4 different brainwave patterns going on at any given time. But since it's there, your brain is using it to try to synchronize a single perception of your own reality. But when that brainwave pattern gets disrupted, or your physical tissue's ability to stay on task with that metronome, then you get this echo effect. You get part of your brain will have an idea, and it'll shoot it out, and then another part of the brain will receive it, and instead of recognizing that it's an idea that came from elsewhere, it will just repeat it as if it were a new idea. And then another part of the brain will catch it and will repeat it. And this may be what happens normally, but it happens faster because the brain is synchronized by the brainwave patterns like a metronome. And so it happens so fast that the overall brain synthesizes it into a single perception of one idea happening across the whole brain at once. When you break that synchronization, then you get this echo effect where ideas just keep running over each other and echoing and bouncing around like waves in a bathtub. And it makes it very hard to think. But if you stop trying to think and just observe, maybe you'll notice something similar. Maybe you'll notice something completely different. I don't fucking know. I can only observe the inside of my own brain.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, the brain is so weird and so individual, even though we all have sort of the same basic setup of it. It's still a tiny little difference in somebody's brain from the next person can develop a completely different experience of life, of sound, of vision, of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot of. I mean, that's why drugs work. It's a chemical thing that affects how the electrochemical component of our brain works, right? And every drug works that way, whether it's painkillers that are just like interfering with the ability of the pain processing parts of the brain to receive signals, or fucking mood stabilizers, which are often just extra neurotransmitters because you're not producing enough for whatever reason. You know, there's all kinds of things. It's all chemicals. It's just chemicals altering your neurological function, which does have an impact on consciousness, whether it's your mood becomes stabilized or you're high as a fucking kite. Whatever the case may be, it's affecting your consciousness. So we know the consciousness, it isn't a physical thing within the brain, but it's an emergent property produced by the physical components of the brain. They are cause and effect linked, you know?
Totally.
It's fucking nifty. So that's Leibniz's thing, is there isn't a single physical area, but he came to the erroneous conclusion that that means there's a magical component rather than there's something we don't understand yet, you know?
Yep. Which seems to be the case of most people that don't understand things.
It's so wild to me that so many times, literally every time in all of our history, when somebody went, I don't understand this thing, it must be magic, it turns out it wasn't actually magic. Every single time it's turned out to be something we just didn't understand yet. And the fact that people are still running around going, I don't understand this thing, it must be magic.
Right.
Like,
and that's the part that they skip all the time, because 2,000 years ago, we didn't understand where the fuck the sun went when it got dark. Now we do. We didn't understand it yet. And at the time, we were like, oh, it must be magic. You know, it must be the gods using a little string or something, or the earth is flat and then the sun fell off the side, or, you know. But now we understand.
It's such a weird thing. It's misinterpretations here. She says there seems to be a need for our brains to come up with an explanation rather than I don't know. Kind of, yes. It's this childish impulse to have an answer, even if it's the wrong answer. Because we've all heard Forrest and Matt and others say this a million times. When a person says, well, basically just lays out the argument from incredulity and says, I don't know, therefore I do know, and the answer is magic. It's fucking wild when you put it that way, but people put it, they don't phrase it that way, but that's what they're saying, is I don't know means I do know. Well, now you're saying you do know, so show us, demonstrate your claim, or we don't believe you, you know?
Yeah. Pretty easy.
Yeah. Or you could just be a reasonable person and be like, I don't know. And if you feel really ambitious, you can be like, I don't know. Let's work together to find out which is what we're trying to do here on this show. That's one of the things this show is for, is so we can learn shit together and not only understand subjects like consciousness much better than we did before, and hopefully we've achieved some of that goal today, but also we can synthesize these things to create a deeper understanding of all the things we're interested in. Because while this topic isn't specifically about the supernatural, it's only one level deep to see. I mean, it's right in the text. Leibniz is like, there must be a soul because there is no consciousness gland, you know? The spirituality is all over this subject. And as skeptics, like, we didn't come here to dispute ideas of spirituality, but it's woven in all the way through, you know?
It is.
It's fucking wild. All right, we have a few more minutes, so I'll keep going a little bit. Let's see. Despite Leibniz's recognition for the possibility of unconscious thought, for most of the next 2 centuries, the domains of thought and consciousness were regarded as more or less the same. Associationist psychology, which is a fun term, whether pursued by Locke or later in the 18th century by Hume, or in the 19th by James Mill, aimed to discover the principles by which conscious thought or ideas interacted or affected each other. And it's a fun subject in and of itself, because this is what I mean about metacognition being important, because how we think about how we think actually shapes how we think, how we process information. It's determined by the cognitive model we're using at the time, which is why how people thought about thinking back in the day matters. And we're going to get into some of that, probably not today, but we're almost definitely going to come back to this subject because there's so much more to say. There's Carl Jung's ideas about the archetypes. Pre-Homer, there's a pretty strong chance that people didn't think of themselves as a single individual, even though they acted that way, even though they made decisions that way. But there was this sort of spiritualistic idea that every person's mind was composed of a council of wants and needs and so forth, who were each like shouting over each other to try to get the most important thing. And the more you needed a thing, the louder that voice got, like hunger. If you're starving, hunger is shouting over everyone with a giant megaphone. And this is how we determine things. Like, we try to be logical beings, but the manner of our thinking in this councilized fashion, it makes it very hard, which is why philosophers are to be praised, because they put so much mental discipline into focusing their thought and setting aside all those screaming, needy children in their brain who want things, sort of like Inside Out or Herman's Head. It's old philosophy stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And
I wish I
you're
could do
kind of
that.
not wrong, because that's what Jung's archetypes were, is the unconscious minds that underlie the consciousness we perceive. Because it isn't just that we're conscious, it isn't just that we're self-aware, we're also meta self-aware. We're aware of being conscious, and that's fucking weird, and no animal should ever do that. It's a very bad idea. It causes existential crises like you wouldn't believe, except you would believe because you have that problem too. But it's a very bad plan.
If you're an excuse me, if you're an animal listening to this show and you're not aware that you're aware, stop right now. Go away. Go eat some grass.
Yep, stop, turn back. Yes, we have cool technology, but at what cost?
At what cost? That's the question.
My goodness. But yeah, the archetypes, that was Jung's idea. And again, we'll get to it later, but we don't have time today. It's the what we now call what is it? The family, the internal family model. Fuck.
The nuclear family or what?
Internal family system model. That's what it is. This is not my field, so I'm just doing my best here. Basically, this is the idea. Mark Reed talks about this sometimes. Like you've got the inner parent, the inner child. You'll hear that one get brought up in a lot of pop psychology. Is this inner child concept? You have to take care of the inner child. You've got the firefighters. You've got the exiles who hold your trauma but keep it away from the main part of your consciousness, so you're able to function. Because if you were carrying all your trauma all the time, you'd just be a crying, screaming mess. It's a whole thing. But there's other things about this. Like when I learned about the internal family system from Mark, it matched up so well with what I was learning about DID from my older daughter, who probably has DID. Like, we didn't really get into it. I didn't want to be judgmental. I just wanted to understand so I could conceptualize how they were thinking about this thinking.
Yeah.
And it's a whole thing, but there's so much. It's like the internal family system and DID are the same thing, but a particular trauma response at a particular age seems to cause the DID system to fracture into separate personas rather than just aspects of a single identity. You know? It's fucking wild. But this is all, just labeling the levels of unconscious mind beneath the things that lurk in the depths beneath the consciousness we're aware of. McTime asks, what is DID? That's dissociative identity disorder. It's not quite what we used to think of as multiple personality disorder. You can have DID systems that seem to be along those general lines, but it can also be much more mild. It can be a person who's broadly functional, but does have different persona elements that come to the fore depending on certain situations, whether they feel safe, if they feel like they're going to need to defend themselves. You'll get different aspects that front or forward. It's a whole thing. It's a whole topic.
It's like a protective mechanism that people develop when they go through like extended periods of trauma, especially like in childhood, from different people often. And so that's why it develops like, oh, I gotta protect myself from this person in this way. And so they develop that disconnect of the one that can't protect them against that person, and sort of like that. Yeah, it's super fascinating. Not in a good way, but
I mean, we learn a whole lot about how the brain works. And while, just because a thing works differently doesn't mean it's bad, right? Like for a long time, we considered autism to be a disorder, but it isn't. It's a different function. It's atypical, but that doesn't mean it's worse. In a lot of ways, it's much, much better. Analytical thought for an autistic person, again, it's a spectrum, so abilities are going to vary with various things and individual differences. But the mechanisms of thinking, the way thinking happens in a neurotypical brain is vastly different from a
neurodivergent brain.
Yes. I'm mixing up my terminology here. Can you tell I'm still tired? My goodness. Neurodivergent, neurotypical. It's like, which is better, a train or an airplane? Well, it depends on what you're trying to do, doesn't it? Like an airplane can get somewhere a lot faster, but a train can carry a hell of a lot more,
Yeah, exactly. Like my kid is autistic, and we often when we do homeschooling, I used to get so frustrated about not finishing this on time, or are you listening to what I'm saying, and that type of stuff. But then the more I learned about the neurodivergent part of the autistic brain, which is out of it, right? I probably worded that the wrong way. But the more I learned about it and how the brain functions for a neurodivergent person, I was like, oh, okay, so it takes a little bit longer when I say something for my kid to process that information. It's still getting in. Like, they still heard me. It's just that it takes a minute. Like, they will process it, and the response or thought doesn't come up right away. Like for most people, it takes a moment, and then they'll reply to the thing like they heard everything perfectly, and it was just my perception that they hadn't heard it. So it's like we have to work with people who are neurodivergent and understand their individual sort of processing of the brain. Yeah, because I mean, some autistic people can process really quickly, but they have other. I don't even want to call them shortcomings because there are the differences, right? Other differences of processing different types of input. It can be auditory. It's just it can be visual sensitivities. It can be textual when they're eating, or textual of like touch. Some people need a little pressure around them to go to sleep. They can't go to sleep without a heavy blanket, a weighted blanket, and stuff like that, right? And it's just that it's just the way your brain processes things differently. It's not like, oh, you're sick and you need medication and you need to like get rid of the neurodivergency.
Yeah, the audio thing. I had a very similar experience when I was in high school. I used to there was another girl that I would walk home because I had to stay after school for all the various extracurriculars I did, and so I'd walk her home before I'd go walk home myself because I had to walk a couple of miles, so a few blocks was no big deal, and we'd talk while we walked, and so often she'd say something, and then I'd say what, and then I'd answer her because there was a delay in my audio processing, you know? And so like I first did the instinctive response of like, I heard you, but there's no data. So please repeat. And we get the what. But then the data processed and it came through, and then I would answer, you know? And
That's
she'd be like,
funny, yeah.
I hate that you do that. Like it drives me so crazy. You know, like just pause and let it process and then answer.
I know, right? Yeah, but I think people might do it because they think if they don't automatically respond, then the other person will think they're not listening. But also asking what does make you seem like you aren't listening or something. So I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Similarly, I'm trying to pay attention to the side chat. You know, I'm not deliberately ignoring you folks. I'm just trying to do a thing, but I do see you, even though sometimes I'm a little late to actually respond. For example, John Fabiano says, I must have the firefighter thing since I was in the fire service for over a decade. I've never heard of that. I know I'm late in commenting I was driving. It's all good. I mean, I'll listen to YouTube. Well, when I had a phone, I'd listen to YouTube while I was driving all the time. And it's good that you don't comment while you're driving. It's not safe, but no worries. No, firefighter isn't like an occupational predisposition. It's a role within the internal family system model that they call firefighters because of the way that portion of the psyche seems to behave. It's not that like you have the firefighter inside, so you do the firefighter job. The element of the psyche was named that because of a passing similarity to firefighters on the outside. You see, it's a whole thing. Some people call them managers, but because it seems to be a more protective, shielding kind of role, people generally seem to feel more comfortable saying firefighters. Some people would say police or soldiers, but that seems so violent and in fact triggers trauma responses in some people.
Yeah,
So they went
firefighter
with
sounds better.
firefighters.
Safer.
Yeah, because everyone thinks of firefighters as either protective and sexy. But that doesn't diminish the protective part, you know?
Right. Okay, so Deviant had a comment. And I lost it. She was saying okay, that neurodivergency is much more than than just autism. It includes ADHD, ADD, Tourette's, OCD, and a bunch of other neural variations. Totally get it. I was just talking about like that very, very specific sort of processing part. But yes, I do know because my teenager that I was just talking about, I would say kid, but it's teenager right now. They have the trifecta, this holy trinity of being autistic, OCD, and ADD. So, yay.
Hell yeah. Misinterpretation says manager is different from firefighter. Again, this is outside of my specialty. I'm just working with the general shapes of things as I understand them. She says there are three main parts: exile, firefighter, and manager.
Gotcha.
So
yeah,
the
because
exile
firefighter
as,
manager seem a little bit different.
this is
I
a
don't know about the
particular
exile.
version of this is different from what I understand, but what I'm extrapolating from what I do understand and what's being said is that under this system, you've got the exiles who hold the trauma, the firefighters who act as the protectors, and the managers who do the executive thing, like we need to go eat, we need to go brush our teeth, we need to, you know, this sort of stuff, the decision makers. And this is why under modern psychology, there's this idea of executive dysfunction. When there's something wrong in your processing, to the order of being a disorder, right? A disorder isn't there's a mental illness, it's something is interfering with your everyday life. It's limiting your ability to function. And an executive dysfunction comes from this decision-making aspect of the brain not being able to fire and get you to go do the shit you need to do, at least as I understand it. So big old asterisk on that. But there's other versions of that.
Okay,
You know, like the
misinterpretations approved of your explanation, which is good.
hooray.
Success.
I do try to make a point of saying when I'm speaking way the fuck outside my field, so this is just how I understand it, but I may be incorrect, so that people don't get this erroneous idea that I'm like trying to be a know-it-all and spread misinformation, because that's what leads to misinterpretations. See what I did there? I'm very funny. Everyone should subscribe to me. And
Okay, I
also
just got it.
join memberships. or send me money or support however you can. I understand I'm very poor. Not everybody can afford to send support. But if you did, I would be very appreciative. And yeah, so we're definitely going to get back to this subject at a future date. I'm not sure when, maybe next week. I haven't scheduled next week yet. So we'll see. But
Yay.
if you want to know more, leave a comment after the fact. Make sure to share this video because this is fascinating stuff. And also it helps the channel and all the other things. AJ, thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure when you get to come play with us, especially
I know.
when it's like
I
brains
hope I
and
can
shit.
do more. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I need to finish a book that I'm reading about consciousness. Okay, I was reading it and I had to take it back to the library because I took it out 3 times in a row, and then they wouldn't let me take it 4th time, so I had to take a break from it. But anyways, it's all about consciousness, and it's called "The Journey of the Mind." How
It's on my list.
how thinking emerged from chaos. And I love like the breakdown that they use. Like the first few chapters go through like very small little creatures, right? Like you have I don't know, archaea and bacteria and amoebas and all of that stuff. And basically it leads you through each one of those and how each one of those develop different parts of what we consider consciousness today, like purpose, targeting, how we make decisions, how our memory works, and all of that, and why they needed that, right? To like procure food and to procure energy and to stay alive and such. So, and then it goes into like bigger animals and creatures, and yeah. So, but it's like super interesting. Because when you hear people, oh well, only humans have consciousness, and then we're like, okay, well, we can tell that bacteria have these aspects, these factors of consciousness that, and I don't know, it's just super good. But we'll talk about it next time anyway.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a huge subject because it's actually several subjects in a trench coat, as
Right.
often happens when humans are trying to figure shit out. But
And this
yeah,
was just the history, so this was just the history part today. So
I know. I mean, we're not even all the way through the history, but it does touch on a lot of the foundational elements and concepts that we're going to need later. It's putting tools in our backpack for later. So it's neat shit. Speaking of neat shit, I want to thank Thriver Scapegoat for becoming a Cinder level of membership. That means that even though I just did the credits for this month, you'll get to be in the credits next month because that's one of the benefits at the Cinder level. Because I try to do what benefits I can. They include all members have access to the fun custom emojis, which are voted on by the members. And I hope you enjoy those. But there's also a bunch of member exclusive content. I do monthly, or sometimes more than monthly, members only live streams, and a few other things here and there. But Cinders also get to be in the credits. So next month, you get to be in there too. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate it very, very much. And the rest of you enjoy the new credits for December. Yay. And thank you all for being here, for participating, for being part of this community. Having people show up and care what I have to say, it means a great deal to me. And I hope that we're contributing something positive to make the world just a little bit better place. Because as always, remember, you don't have to pretend that because you don't know how something works, that means you do know how it works and the answer is magic, because you are better than religion. Landed the plane. Haha. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for December. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkison, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, Secular Feelinist, and Geo Sam. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop, can't turn back